So, I think today we are supposed to introduce Bodhicharyavattara and then explain Bodhisattva vows and give Bodhisattva vows. Bodhisattva vow is tomorrow night. Okay. So, Bodhisattva vow is tomorrow night. Okay. And now Bodhicharyavattara is another very important classics of Mahayana Buddhism, and it is also a text which is very, very widely studied in Tibet, and it is also very widely studied in India. We can understand this because there are so many commentaries of Bodhicharyavattara in Sanskrit. Even among the translations, there are so many translations of the different commentaries of very many great masters in India. And therefore there is also many commentaries of this text among the Tibetan masters also. Almost anybody who thinks himself or herself of somebody in Buddhist, Tibetan Buddhist tradition, they've written a commentary on Bodhicharyavattara. I've heard that even one of the Ringu Tulkus wrote one, although not published. It was written by a master of, I think, around 7th century or something like that, called Shantideva. And there is not much clear, biography of Shantideva. We don't know as much about Shantideva as, the book Bodhicharyavattara is popular and famous. It is known that he was a prince of an Indian kingdom. That time there was many small kingdoms. And then he was, he studied and he became, I think, very good he was very highly good educated. And then he had, somebody gave him a practice of Manjushri. So he practiced Manjushri, and he had some nice, good dreams. And then he practiced it much stronger. So he was very highly blessed by Manjushri. And then his father passed away. And then next day he was supposed to become the king. And that night he had a dream, it is said, that on the throne that he was supposed to be enthroned next day, Manjushri was sitting. And then he said, "How dare you sit on my throne?" And then he woke up. And then he took it as a kind of an instruction or indication that he should not sit on the throne, he should not become the king. And he ran away. He ran away, it is said, to Nalanda University, became a monk, and then he studied, and then he also studied many other places and things like that. And he became, a great master. There are lots of, legends about him. Many different legends about him, about 7 or 8 different kind of things that he did, and very kind of strange. But there was not so much of a true biography of him. Only thing very clearly always told is how he came to teach the Bodhicharyavattara. It is said that there was one time he was living in Nalanda University, but he was not going to any classes, he was not teaching, he was not taking any part in any of the university activities. And then the higher level of the professors and teachers of the university was a little bit upset with him. They thought, he should go away, he should be expelled. But there was no rule that he broke. So therefore they couldn't just expel him also. So they had a meeting, and in this meeting it is said they discussed, and one person got a good idea. He said, well, he's just here doing nothing, so I'm sure he doesn't know anything. So we make a new rule that every student of the university should make a teaching one day. And then we ask him to teach, first or second, and then he will not know how to teach, so he will run away. So that would be the best way that we can get rid of him. So they announced that, and then, they said, now tomorrow, this person called Busuku, he came to be called Busuku. Bu for eating, Su for, I think, sleeping, Ku for sitting. So the one who does only eating, sleeping, and shitting, but nothing else. So the Busuku will give a tremendous teaching, and so therefore everybody should come. So of course everybody came. There were over 10,000 students, I've heard, and they, in a huge kind of a plane. They made a high throne where there was no stairs, and then they asked him to come and give a teaching. So Busuku came, to their surprise. He didn't run away. He came, and they didn't really know how he climbed on the throne, but he sat on the throne. And he asked, what kind of teaching do you want? Do you want me to give a teaching that was already given, or something that's not given before? And then everybody shouted, something totally different, something that nobody taught before. And then he started to recite in verse this. I don't know whether he really recited in verse or not. I've heard that there is also the version of with prose, but later on, the one we have is in verse. But that's maybe, I don't know. But anyway, it doesn't matter. He started to teach this Bodhicharyavattara, and then at a certain stage, according to this legend, he started to levitate. He went higher and higher and higher and higher, and then disappeared. Now there were lots of people who had this dharani in that. That means you could remember everything that once you heard. So these people had memorized all the teachings, and then they started to write down. And then there were 3 versions. One was like 700 and some stanzas. One was about 1,000 stanzas. One was 1,500 stanzas. But he went away, he disappeared. So then when they read this, they were very impressed. They said, this Busuku, he was not an ordinary person. He was such a great scholar. We have done a very bad thing that we drove him away. So they tried to find him. They tried to inquire and search for him. And after a few years, they found out that he was somewhere in the South India. And then they sent a delegation, and then, made apologies to him, and then asked, which one is correct, So he went through that, and he said the medium way is the correct one, and made some corrections. And then also in this Bodhicharyavattara, he also mentioned another 2 books. And then which is these books? He says, I've written them. I've written them and put on the, they used to be like, straw thatches on the roof. So I put it under it. If you search there, you will find. So they found these 2 books, one very small and one quite big. And so he has these 3 books. Now this text is also, is the commentary, is the, what can you say? If you understand this text, then, you would more or less understand all these sutras of the second Dharmachakra, all the teachings of Buddha, what we call second Dharmachakra, on how to become a bodhisattva, and all the teachings about bodhisattva, you will be able to understand them. That's the idea. So therefore, it's a commentary on this, and it's regarded as a very clear and complete explanation on how to become a bodhisattva. So therefore it is, the text is called Bodhicharyavattara. Bodhicharyavattara. Bodhicharya. Bodhi is Bodhisattva, the kind of shortened form of Bodhisattva. Charya means action or activities or living, Bodhicharya Avatara means entering into. So it's about how to enter into the activities or the life or the way of life of a bodhisattva, the Bodhicharyavattara. So that's the name of the book. I call my association Bodhicharya. I got it from here. It's not Bodhikarya, it's Bodhicharya. Yeah? Charya means action. So Bodhisattva has action. Now, one of the kind of special kind of this book is that it explains every kind of instructions, not just as an instruction, you should do this, you should not do this, not just that. It explains why. Everything you kind of, you are supposed to do, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, and why you should do this. And it really gives all the reasoning and the reasons and why it's good to do like this, why it's not good to not do that way. So it explains, in a logical way, and that is the more kind of speciality of this particular book. And for personally, this is the first Buddhist text that I studied. I was around 8 years old, I think, and yes. And then, I was in that school for Tulkus called Young Lama's Home School, and there was a very, very great, very good Nyingma Khenpo called Khenpo Tsendu. So he started to teach this to us, some Tulkus, some young Tulkus. And Chujinema Rinpoche was there, Chonli Rinpoche was there, and many other lamas of around that age were there. It gave me two most important benefits. One was, it started in a hard way, but it became very, very useful later on. They usually, in any Tibetan classes like that, they always make a test every day. And that is like the teacher would write the names of all the students on a piece of paper, on a small piece of paper, and then roll it up. And then he put in a pouch, and then put it under his pillow. So every morning before the class, he would take this out, and then make a lottery. Put it in his hand and do like this, and whatever, roll come out, that would the person who would have to, say the class that we had yesterday, So everybody has to be a little prepared because you don't know whose name will come out. So fortunately or unfortunately, my name came out first. First day my name came out. So I had to explain, the first, I don't know, they did maybe 1 or 2 stanzas anyway, but so I had to explain it. And I had never explained anything before, So I somehow explained it, but somehow my teacher was very, very happy with it. He was very happy. He called my teacher and and some other people and says, he made me to repeat again, And he says, it's very good, I think he will learn. So since then, he never refused to teach me anything at whatever time, and so therefore that was a very, very good thing for me. Another very most important thing to me was that this kind of little bit changed my life. Before that, I was a very angry and quarrelsome little boy. I wanted to be a warrior, I wanted to fight with everybody. I used to fight with everybody. That's to do with because of my culture. Many people would think that the Tibetans, they are all Buddhist and they must be very calm and quiet and kind. It's not like that, All Tibetans are not like that. I'm from Eastern Tibet, calm, And Khampas like to think of themselves as warriors, They used to carry 3 swords, everybody, all the time. One sword like this, in this way. One like this, in here. One small one like this, here. And this was for eating, small one. This one, eating, but mostly fighting. And big one was only for fighting, and maybe some like a decoration. And very easy to fight each other. So not that peaceful. On top of that, they used to have one pistol and one long gun. Every man who could afford would have that. So therefore, if they need a battle or a war, somebody goes on top of a mountain and said, "Hey, everybody come!" So everybody will come with their gun and horse. So because there was no army, there was no army, no policemen, nothing, but everybody is army kind of. So it was like that. So their culture was that especially boys, they would say, "Let us see how brave he is." So if you were not brave, you were nobody. You could be very intelligent, you could be very, all kind of good qualities, doesn't matter. If you are not brave, you are useless. That was like that. Sometimes they would hold like this and, and then see, how injurable, how much you can injure, things like that. So therefore then, you have to fight, because to prove you are brave, you have to fight, So I was fighting all the time. And then sometimes you get really angry, it's strange, but that's how it happens, So you have a boy. Sometimes I used to fight with boys much older than me. And, sometimes your hand is not so big, so it would not hurt so much. But I had a big head, So I used to go a little bit back and run with my head on his belly, like this. He would fall off, Then I would use my fists, but my feet and my knees, and then if that doesn't seem to hurt, then I would bite. I was that bad, that bad. But my people didn't feel bad about that. They thought it was good, good. He's going to be a good fighter, yes. So when I received this teaching on the Bodhicharyavattara and I went back, I didn't know, but I was changed, I was no longer that much fierce and that much fighting, I became much. So my people thought he's become useless. They said he has become like a fresh cow shit. Soft, little warm, and bad smelling. So I had become like a fresh, warm, actually, cow shit.
Holy cow.
Yeah? But I think it was good that I became like that. And I didn't fight after that. So, this text has 10 chapters, and the first is about, how important is the bodhicitta. Now, bodhicitta is bodhicitta is enlightened. Bodhi is here not bodhisattva. Here bodhi is just bodhi. Bodhi is enlightenment, like we talked about, bodhi other time also. It's coming from both knowing, completely understanding, wisdom. So bodhicitta, citta is the mind or heart, the heart of the body, heart of the enlightenment. So heart of the enlightenment could be two. One is compassion, one is wisdom. Compassion is usually called relative bodhicitta, and wisdom or understanding or experiencing the ultimate nature of things is called ultimate bodhicitta. So, generally, the teachings of the Buddha or the Dharma. It has been commented, it has been found, that there are three. It was, of course, there are many. Buddha, it is said, taught not like I know this, that's why I teach everything that I know. That was not the idea. For him, what these people would need, he will teach that. What kind of teachings, what kind of approaches, what level of, what kind of instructions the people would benefit with, he would teach that. That's why there are many teachings and many sutras and many tantras. Now all these later on categorized into three, to suit three different types of people who are interested to understand or practice Dharma. First is those people who are not really interested about enlightenment. They don't know about enlightenment. They don't understand enlightenment. They don't want enlightenment. They don't want to get out of samsara. They really like samsara. They love samsara. But little good samsara, nice life, nice positive life, and maybe nice positive life after. So he taught Dharma for them also. That's the first type of people. That's one thing. Then second is those people, who do and practice and understand things that will make them, better in this life and better, next life, and how to live life in a way that is good for them and good for others, and a better society, better life, better result, and things like that. And then when they have that, they realize that that's good, that's wonderful, that's nice, that's important. But this is not enough, because even if I have a good life now, even if maybe I will have a good rebirth next time, but as long as I'm in a samsaric state of mind, as long as I have the basic, cause of samsara, cause of suffering and pain and problem, like my negative emotions, my my delusion, or my confusion, ignorance, then I will be in a trap somehow, and I really need to free myself from this, and otherwise it will not be enough. So for people who have that kind of understanding or motivation, then he gives the teaching about how to transform, how to free yourself from the samsaric stage, like Sarvakayana teachings, and most of the teachings that Buddha gave in the first round of teachings were of these two kinds. Then again, some people think that, well, it is important, it is good that I transform myself, I free myself from all the causes and conditions of suffering and pain and problem, and free myself from samsara. That's good, I must do that maybe, but that's not enough. I must help all other people who are in samsara, and I must help to liberate all of them, because these people are also my dear and near ones. I love them. And if they are suffering, me only not suffering, doesn't make sense. It wouldn't. So, and those kind of people are called bodhisattva type of people. So this bodhicitta and these teachings on the bodhisattva's way of are mainly addressed to this type of people. Those who not only wants to liberate themselves from samsara, but also wants to bring the highest and the best, and everlasting happiness to all the sentient beings. So if you want to train in that, which Buddha of course said that is the best, that is the highest, that is the, if you want to work on the Dharma or anything with that attitude, that is the most, kind of excellent way of doing it, the most highest type of practice. So therefore, to get there, to enter into this, so one need to generate this compassion, that how important it is that we have to generate compassion, and not only little bit compassion, but universal compassion, equal compassion. Of course, everybody would have compassion. You would like your dear and near ones to be free from suffering. You would like your own dear and near ones to have, to free from and have highest kind of, that everybody wishes. But we don't know how to wish that to everybody. And there is no reason why we should not wish that to everybody. And if we can generate that state of mind, that we can wish the same kindness, same love, same compassion to everybody that we, that we feel towards our dear and near ones, then you would be called a bodhisattva. So therefore, it is like this, that it is very good that we want to have a good life, this life. We have to make our mind calm and clear and free from stress, do some meditation. We want to live in a life that is, where there is lots of causes and conditions which creates more happiness and more joy and things like that, without harming too much, but doing more positive things, and so therefore better life. And things like that, very good life and very positive life and very, lots of progress and, in this life. That's very wonderful, that's good, we should do that. But, that would not solve all the problems. So then we should also, not just that, but, look what are the true causes of our sufferings, and like negative emotions and habitual tendencies and things like that. And we should, learn how to somehow uproot them. And that will be very, very good. Then you will become arhats and things like that. That's one part. That's very good. And then that's very good, but what about other people, So we have to also think about everybody. We have to generate compassion and do the bodhicitta and bodhisattva's path, and then become a fully enlightened being. Increase or, work on our wisdom and compassion both, and completely become enlightened and help all sentient beings. That would be the best. Now, when we think about that, then to understand that, to have, what is, to be compassionate is not only good for others. Usually we think that if I'm compassionate, then it is good for people who are like object of my compassion. But it's not just that. If I'm compassionate, or I have compassion, it's first most good for myself. Because, we have all these negative emotions, like anger, hatred, ill will, jealousy, too much greed, too much selfishness, all kind of negative reactions. Now, for all these negative emotions and habitual tendencies, what is the positive side? The positive side is only one: compassion. Anger, positive; love, compassion. Hatred, opposite; love, compassion. Greed, opposite; love, compassion. Yeah. Jealousy, love, compassion. Too much self-centeredness or too much arrogance, also love, compassion. So, if the love and compassion is increased in us, all negative emotions get decreased. And the more negative emotions and negative reactions are decreased, the more peaceful, happier, joyful, and beneficial I will become. So therefore, when we talk about generating bodhicitta and becoming compassionate, it's not just for other people. It's primarily the most beneficial for myself. So therefore, if we can generate, or if we can feel a universal compassion, that would actually be the most best thing that can happen in ourselves also. So therefore, why don't we become bodhisattvas and generate bodhicitta right from the beginning? That's the idea. And then some people might say, that's too much. How can I be so compassionate? How can I be, compassionate to the most evil people and bad people and things like that. I don't want to be compassionate to somebody who is really bad or done something very bad. But actually, do we need those bad people or not? Do we like to have a lot of these bad people or not? We don't want them, We don't want them. So, if we don't want them, if we don't want bad people in the world, then we have to, we have to give them love, give them help. We have to help them to become more kind, more positive. Just hating them is not going to help. So therefore, when you say compassion to them, it's not to mean that I will follow them, or I will support them, or I will, help them, but I wish that all these people would also become good people, positive people, kind people, compassionate people. And towards that end, if there is anything I can do, I would be, I would try to do, I will help. So, so this way, it's not, it doesn't, if I hate somebody, that doesn't make them end hating people or doing negative things, But I have hatred in me, and then I actually become a little bit not as bad as them, but almost, So then, why should I start to become even a smaller negative person than them, So therefore, my heart should be free from hatred. My heart should be free from anger and hatred to anybody, even those who are doing bad things. So therefore, when we try to become bodhisattvas, of course, we cannot become a great bodhisattva right now, that we are totally perfect, we are really compassionate and completely doing everything to help everybody. It's not expected, and we can't expect ourselves also. But we can train. Yeah? We can train. We can start to train. We can wish that we become like that. So taking the bodhisattva vows is that. It's not saying that I take bodhisattva vows today and tomorrow I'm a great bodhisattva. I give everything what anybody wants. I do everything what everybody asks me. Not that, I should not do that. But I try to train myself, to live as nicely, as kindly, as compassionately as possible, step by step. That's why the Bodhisattva vow says, as the Buddhas of the past, have generated this bodhicitta and trained on this path step by step and gradually. So I also would like to generate bodhicitta and train myself on the path step by step and gradually. So, what's wrong starting to train? Yeah? And it's very good to train in that way. It might take many eons, to become a great bodhisattva, or it might take a short time. Doesn't matter. Yeah. It's good to do that. Good to train on that, step by step. I don't need to expect myself to become like greatest bodhisattva now, not even next life, not even after 10 lifetimes, but eventually. Sometimes it is said that it's good to work for the impossible. Akunumachi used to say this, Unless it is something impossible, it is not worth doing. Was it? That's what Akunumachi said. And he kind of did that. He was doing lots of impossible things. He was trying to help. In Tibet they had destroyed all the monasteries, destroyed all the monks. Destroyed the culture and things like that. And so he was trying to re-establish that, and trying to start schools, start medical, colleges, start all kind of things. And he was carrying money there, cash here, there, everywhere. Sometimes, he used to carry he used to send millions, millions. I heard that about 2 million every year. And then, all over the place. And then he has to, face with Chinese officials, he has to face with, all other kind of, things. The Tibetans don't like him because, he's with the Chinese, he's going to China, and the Chinese are very suspicious of him being Tibetan and things like that, and, it's very impossible things. I used to give him money to him, If I gave it to Rokpa, they will charge me 10%. So I just carry the cash and give it to him. And then he will put it in his pocket and go to my monastery, and give it there, And to go to my monastery, it took me 5 days by car from Chengdu when I first went there. And he went before that, so it took him, and he didn't even get a cup of tea. Because there was no, my monastery was not very organized. So he used to say that your monastery and my monastery is impossible. He went all the way for 5 days by car to get the money, and they didn't even give him a cup of tea. Okay, I think we stop here. Thank you.